Hello. I'm sat underneath one of my favourite oak trees. I want to elaborate a bit on something that has been a bit of like a buzz topic for me when I've been ranting recently about the imagination. Like this is a really big deal. I hope the sound is alright. It's mainly just birds, but there might be the odd like vehicle. So recently, someone that I love very much kind of prompted me to like reflect. There you go. Ask and you shall receive. Like prompted me to reflect on like what I wish people knew in terms of, you know, living through a fucking live streamed genocide for the last year. And, you know, I'm not as politically informed as so many of my friends, but I am magically informed, I guess. And like honestly, the biggest thing, and I would have said this, you know, prior to the past year as well, the biggest thing is that like our imagination has just been so heavily hijacked, and like our imagination is our most powerful faculty, like as humans. So like in alchemy, which, you know, I always like to look at what the dudes kind of on the fringes of thought believed. So in alchemical practices you have, and lots of practices, but like specifically in alchemy you have earth, air, water and fire. And what they correspond to is earth is the physical realm, air is the mental realm, the realm of thoughts, water is the emotional realm, the realm of feelings, and fire is the imaginal realm or the creative realm. So for alchemists, like, you know, you kind of always start with the physical, like you get the physical practices down before you can kind of move to the rest. But the alchemists saw our humans' ability to imagine as our highest faculty, higher than emotions, higher than the intellect. Everything that exists in the physical realm once only existed in the imagination. Like everything that we see here that's man-made once was only like a construct in the imagination, right? There's a guy called Neville Goddard who like has a lot of talks online who talks about imagination as God. Be careful, because I don't think they're bad, but there are a few Neville Goddard talks on YouTube that are like definitely AI. And I, you know, just be wary. But you know, to impact the physical realm, like it starts in the imagination, right? Like our imagination contains infinity, like everything is possible in the imagination. And again, like you want to bring anything into like physical existence, like it you have to create it in your mind first. Now, our imagination I'm a big fan of like using delusion to your advantage, and I think this can kind of come into play here. But like we share our co-creation of like the world we perceive around us through our perspectives is still an imaginal construct, and so we usually share like a lot of perspectives with the people that are closest to us, and then it moves outward to like social and cultural things, and we have lived under this umbrella of media for a good few decades now, where I mean I can just see like everyone's capacity to imagine is so restricted and so informed by what we consume on like a visual, intellectual level, right? You know, I've had many years of being like a total outsider, which has both been incredibly isolating and also informed my ability to see this from the outside. It's programming. It's social programming. And it can be super insidious. Like there was a CIA operative, Operation Mockingbird, that essentially just allowed them to program mainstream culture, mainstream opinion through the media. Like, so many people don't question why they think what they think. They just absorb it, like no questions asked. That's really nuts to me, because it's like putting such faith in our fucking overlords that we think that they actually have our best interests at heart. You know, we all live within our own perspectives. Like there's 8 billion of us. So there's 8 billion fractals of like of human experience, and you know, that's just like the physical realm. Obviously there's like an infinite number of perspectives, and to think that so many of us receive like exactly the same information from day one, it is a social and a cultural programming. So we all live within our own imaginative constructs. And the thing is as well, like imagination, I've heard it be spoken about like derogatorily. If you're like away with the fairies, or it's childish or it's foolish, you know, to have a really active imagination. But actually, like, the more powerful your imagination, the more if you use it constructively, like the more powerful your imagination, the more able you are to impact the physical realm. Like, that's just fact. But then also, like, if you can program lots of people to think in the way that you want to, then that is also gonna like impact the physical realm, right? Like, that we're not separate. There's power in mass. There's power in numbers. What's the phrase? Critical mass. Critical mass basically means like once a certain amount of people, or like animals in general, because they did these studies on animals, like once a certain number of let's say people like come to a specific conclusion, then everyone else just kind of gets it. But you can have like a few people working on the same problem for years and years and years, and then once a few people figure it out, then suddenly loads of people do. Yeah, there are studies. I have sources. Obviously, like imagination, like thought spirals, that's like your imagination and your intellect kind of feeding off one another, and what that does is just drain your energy, quite frankly. And a lot of the time I envision that as non-physical entities trying to hijack you. And we are under so much psychic attack all day, every day, from sources that are government programs and other things. But again, we're specifically taught not to see this. Like, who has the best imagination? It's children. Children are constantly telling you that they see things and they speak to, they're living in a fucking dream state for the first 7 years of your life, which is also when you're the most susceptible to any kind of programming. Any serious messages that you get from the ages of like birth to 7 essentially is what locks in as your subconscious programming. And as kids have so many experiences. It's nuts the number of people that I speak to that say that, I don't believe in anything like non-physical or whatever, but then it's like, but actually this one time, it's like, but so you do. And like loads of kids do it, and we just dismiss it as like, oh yeah, childish. And it's just not the case. We receive so much negative programming all day, every day. It's actually so difficult to not be totally overwhelmed by that. And the way that I've managed to kind of bypass it, and I wouldn't say that, ooh, that's a woodpecker. I wouldn't say that I have completely bypassed it, because I think you would literally have to like lock yourself in a cabin in the woods and not really speak to anyone, but then that's also not very healthy. We need people around us. But even just like the films that we watch, just the very limited parameters of what is seen as like real and not real, that are drilled into us from day one. And I read a really interesting think piece by someone that I really respect called Saatchi, about how the Tooth Fairy and Santa are like the two ways that children learn to react to the idea of magic in the world, but it's still a transactional thing, and then it ends up not being real anyway. Which I'll try and find and maybe link to this. But yeah, so not just in the past year, but also very much in the past year, like, who among us can pay attention to like what's happening and still function? How can you pay attention and still feel hopeful? And the thing is like, when we're engaging our imagination, we want to be doing it with hope. And this is not, this is really not trying to be like fucking any kind of spiritual bypassing. I don't want to bring that vibe to the party. There's quite a lot of people in the past year that I have, that I previously really respected in terms of, their spiritual understandings and their messages that have just been completely silent, that I have just cut ties with, because I just don't, I just don't think that that is an okay way to behave. So this isn't like a bury your head in the sand and pretend everything is okay. It's more like a call to resolute, determination to not fall prey to hopelessness, because it's exactly what they want. The people that are carrying out these fucking atrocities, the reason that we're being, the reason that it's like the horrors, because it hijacks our imagination in a big way, and that's exactly what they want. They want us to be traumatized, they want us to be docile, they want us to not think that we have the capacity to change anything, and really what I wish people knew is that we are so fucking powerful. We are so powerful, but our imaginations have been completely hijacked from day one. And it's no one's fault. But at the same time, if enough of us woke up tomorrow and realized that, oh mate, like telepathy is real and telekinesis is real, and like all of these things, which by the way, I have experienced both of those things. I have read numerous case studies on both of those things. I can provide sources if you are doubtful. Humans are capable of so much more than we have been taught. The capacity to do so does start in the imagination. Like, if you don't believe you can do something, guess what? You're not going to be able to do it. Belief is an amazing tool. Fucking use delusion to your benefit. Like, some of the most successful people are completely deluded. If enough of us realized how powerful we are, the system would collapse in an instant. And that's exactly why they want to keep us like super scared and just trying to pay our bills on time and yeah, like there's a reason that we are programmed on a mass level to feel so disempowered. There's a reason that occult knowledge, occult information has been kept from the public, and not only kept from the public, scaremongered about. You know what occult means? Occult means hidden. It just means hidden. Doesn't mean bad. Like, yeah, it's scary if you don't fucking use it properly. Like, you can't just dive in and start doing nut ceremonies. I've witnessed a few people like have a lot of misfortune in their lives for dabbling with that kind of shit. But if you just learn to apply some of this information, the difference that it can make in your life is absolutely tremendous. But yeah, occult just means hidden. Like, come on. It was hidden, it was suppressed. Like, we need to kind of start empowering ourselves here and not allow ourselves to just be used in this way. Like, it is, and I'm giving like conspiracy matrix vibes, but like there's a reason people are really into those films. Like, it's a good metaphor. There's a reason like psychedelics are illegal, because you are able to interact with perspectives that show you like the wholeness and the totality of existence. And it is quite insane to me that so many people will go through life having never having never really strayed outside of like very narrow states of awareness. You know, this is something Terence Mckenna talks about, this is something Hancock talks about. Like, most of us in the Western world, in the modern Western world, are in a state of problem-solving consciousness. We are allowed to consume caffeine so that we're like antsy and aware and awake for a little while. And then, like, you know, to let loose, we're allowed to consume alcohol, which is horrible poison. It's a spirit. It can open you up to spirits. But mushrooms, what grow on the ground at this time of year, you're not allowed to take them. That's bad. It grows on the fucking ground. Like, says who? Insanity. So, but you know, things, psychedelics, but like a lot of consciousness altering drugs. The reason that they're illegal is because they allow people to break out of this very narrow parameters of thought. And you know, you can be going through like such intense trauma, which so many of my friends are in this past year, and there are things that you can kind of take to allow you to just sit with that. And they're illegal. I feel like they would make breathwork illegal. Like, I feel like there are people that would like to make breathwork illegal, quite frankly. There was a really interesting tweet that I saw a few weeks ago by someone called Trevor Moore, who I don't know who he is, but I really liked this tweet. He wrote, "What if governments learned from the MK Ultra experiments in the 50s? In the 50s, they've had fucking 70 years to experiment on this shit. And if you think they stopped doing the MK Ultra and like astral projection experiments because they like didn't work or weren't effective, like, honey, please, just come on." Anyway, what if governments learned from the MK Ultra experiments in the 50s that trauma allows you to control people, so they purposefully orchestrate disastrous events to keep citizens afraid and dependent on them? Perhaps one of the reasons that mental illness is on the rise. So, yeah, like, I know it's so hard, and like, trust me, I've been through my fucking share of the dark night of the soul, and there's no surprise that anyone that, you know, has a drop of empathy and a fucking screen in front of their eyes this year would be struggling so much and feeling so hopeless, let alone if you know, you have family in the places that are being affected by this genocide. If you can just retain the awareness that your imagination is so powerful, like, we literally, if enough of us woke up tomorrow and started utilizing that, like, shit could change really rapidly. It's so hard to like imagine the best outcome while you're seeing what you're seeing, but I just really urge you to just try. You know, it's not going to happen overnight, but like, I do think this is an integral way of how we get out of this fucking mess. We are fed, like what's the main thing that we see in so many series that are super powerful? It's dystopian. You have to be so careful what you're consuming, because you're intaking that information, especially when you're watching, you know, when your brain state is altered when you're watching moving images. Like you're just intaking that information, and your brain is just interpreting that as a part of reality. Your subconscious brain can't differentiate between, like, oh, this is fiction, this is fact. Like, it's just so sinister. Stop paying attention to it. Yeah, start small, you know. Start with just imagining something small that would feel really nice. And when you're imagining, you know, there's ways to it. I'm a person that actually really struggles with visualization, or at least I used to. And it really pissed me off for many years. So there's like various ways to do it. Like some people have more of a mental thing that it would be best to like write it out and read it back to yourself. Some people are really good at visualizing. So if you allocate, say, like 20 minutes or half an hour a day for like a week, just to visualize some nice things. Some people, it's more of a sensation thing. You know, you want to be in a relaxed state. You want to turn off the thinking mind, because this is not thinking. Remember, it's physical, mental, emotional, imagination. So you want to be engaging all of those, but it does, you know, it needs to be more than just thought itself. If you can combine thought with imagery or like a sensation, like an emotional reaction, then you're on to a winner. But yeah, I think that's kind of everything that I wanted to say. Love you. Keep going. Like, we're here, might as well fucking do something about it. If you want to talk to me one-on-one, you can message me. I have options for various readings and shit on my website. I'm so bad at marketing myself, but I do want to be doing this like literally all the time. So I wanna be able to support myself and just absorb all of the witchy knowledge and then share all of the witchy knowledge. So yeah, I have my YouTube, and then I do also have a Patreon, which I know that some of the shit that I share is a little spicy, and I am concerned for retaining my online presence. So there definitely will be like more exclusive hot takes on my Patreon. So yeah, please join me. Please share this with people. Like, if it helps, fucking great. I love you. Let me know how you're doing. Let's just love each other.